If you join me in a moment of silence to pledge. Thank you. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone here tonight. Thanks for coming. I think I saw Colonel Mall here. Thank you for coming. I don't have it on here, but let's approve the agenda. If you got anything to add or talk about on that? Is there anything to add? Anything to take away?
Motion to approve agenda.
I'll second.
Those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. So the first item here is the budget draft one that we got. We talked about and gone through. Is there any questions on it?
I had a question just regarding the maintenance budget worksheet piece. And I just threw it out to Dr. Maddox on the way in today. This afternoon, we got an email from Mr. Stepp regarding the Stone Memorial High School track from the TSAA regarding different types of track surfaces, different costs associated with those. And so I was wondering, the cost for the track that we had under major projects for $790,000, where that fell into the different options is based on what TSAA sent us.
So we don't know that answer yet, do we?
No, we're not going to know that until we start getting quotes.
Where the 790 came from a rough estimate, right?
Correct.
From somebody?
Yes.
So do we know what kind of surface material that was? Because the TSAA broke it down by surface material.
Well, it's actually something we had broken down from the research. They didn't send that to us. It's the I think the polyurethane, I believe it's the same type surface. Because when we looked at it before, I think the one that Ms. Bray has was a quote from a Baseline. And Baseline was one of the vendors that was that we had researched and that provided that. So I believe it was the same product.
Okay.
But I did go from 6 lanes to 8 lanes. That I don't think it distinguished between the two.
No, it doesn't look like it from what they were talking about. They didn't put a dollar amount on it, but they talked about full pour polyurethane sandwich system, which was base mat plus polyurethane, and then a spray coat system, which they noted as the lowest cost option.
Now, why was that not done when we first built the school? I mean, did we have the track up and running and all that?
Yeah, it's been there. The track's been there since the school was open, but it's almost 20 years old now. And there's a lot of the material that's on the track itself that is coming up. A lot of bare spots on the track. It's a rubberized little pellets that's coming up because there's a foundation of this asphalt, and then that's on top of the asphalt.
Yeah.
And over time, and I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the track itself has been painted. It was painted originally, and I think it's been painted 2 more times, so 3 times altogether in 20 years, because you have to paint over those stripes in the lane choices.
So what's there now currently is the rubberized asphalt then?
It's not rubberized asphalt. It's a rubber coating that goes on top of the asphalt.
I guess that was the email.
Okay, so the spray coat system is what we currently have on there?
I believe that's correct, but I'm not really sure. I wasn't involved in when it was, when it was built back in 2006.
Okay,
The gentleman at Baseline told me what was put down originally is what was done for tracks at
That time.
At that time.
mm-hmm,
Needless to say, in 20 years, we've been
Sure.
improved on some things.
sure. If that's our lowest cost option, and if that's what we did originally, and it's lasted almost 20 years, I mean, we've had to do a little repair and repainting, right?
Yes.
I guess just determining where our bid falls that we have, and are we gonna save any money, making any adjustments to that, on the maintenance piece, or the major project piece. So it would be going back to that bid and determining what kind of material, is that what it's gonna
We
take?
have not officially bid it, that is a quote.
Uh-huh.
And then once we put it out for public bid, that would be something you would have to put
So I-
include in that bid,
So-
the type of surface that you're requesting.
Okay, so that quote, for them to give us that quote, shouldn't it be some kind of surface though? We'd have an idea what kind of surface that they
I'm
would
sure
be
it's
using?
included in that quote, I just don't have that quote in
Yeah.
front of me.
So that'd be something that we can find out.
But, or you could put the bid out that you wanted a quote on each type of these surfaces. Do it that way.
Okay, just for budgeting purposes, to have an idea of, where we fall, since we're looking at the 790 now.
Right.
Would that come down any or go up?
Can't say.
If you'll give me a second, I believe I have that baseline quote.
Should have it in your hand.
How old is the quote that we're looking at? Is it this school year? Yeah.
Because I went back
20
and
years.
asked him to revisit it, and he did come back to the facility and do it again.
Okay. That's something you want to come back to us with, Dr. Maddox?
Well, I've got the recommended range for the track planning budget was 875 to 965, but there's a lot more details in the scope of work listed here.
Okay.
And it does state 8 lanes as far as, but it says 8 lanes in the heading, but in number 2, it said 6-lane running track. But it also includes a lot of other things that they would be doing to the track, such as including, having to do the high jump area. I think moving the long jump to that part of the field instead of being behind the bleachers. But it was more extensive work
Okay,
than just the track itself. it looks
Okay,
like.
okay.
And if you wanted me to get you a copy of this, I'll be more than happy to.
okay. I think just getting a ballpark, if that 790 is accurate to which choice we'd want to move forward with from the TSAA response on what we have to do to meet their criteria.
And I think what they're looking at right there with that was just a ballpark figure of an average of the new track. And when they quote the track, they're just talking about the track around it. But this quote from Baseline had more than that.
More to it.
Yeah.
And I know there's some drainage
Yes.
work that was included in that as well. So we don't run into the same issues again with the track.
The scope of work includes about 12 different things, and it would be per, it said TWSAA requirements.
Okay. They give us a choice on some of them, so I guess that would be where we fall dollar-wise, what we feel is gonna be best bang for the buck when we're looking at that.
I'd like to have a copy of that, Dr. Max, if you don't
Okay,
care.
most certainly.
You just,
You want a hard copy?
Yeah, that's fine.
okay. I'm good, that was my only question regarding that piece.
Any other questions or discussion on the budget draft one? Okay. Number 3, the executive summary. We got that explained to us the other night in detail. Any questions about it? Seeing none, we'll go on to the survey results. See on the screen, survey was sent out about 5 different things to be rated, which was most important, with number 1 in blue, number 2 in red, number 3 in orange, number 4 in green, number 5 in purple. And as I read that, I'm not sure. Dr. Farley, would you like to talk about it?
Sure. How I interpreted the results was the employees, the most important thing to them was salary and hourly wages. Number 2 was medical benefits. Number 3 was paid time off. Number 4 was professional development, promotional opportunities, and number 5 was recognition.
Okay. That's the way I read it, but I wasn't sure that I could explain it that way. Thank you.
Only 562 employees completed the survey. It was sent out to everyone on the CCBOE listserv.
Okay. We got a little better than 50%. Which for most surveys is pretty good. Y'all have any questions about that?
My understanding was the survey's number 1 was least important and number 5 was the most, right? Correct?
No,
No.
no, number 1 was the most important.
Well, then I read it wrong. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Oh, this was the combined one. Yeah, okay.
That's best for last.
We've got this.
There you go.
Yeah, we got this.
Yeah, I believe you've seen this before.
Yeah, this was the combined one, not, I was thinking there was something separate, just for the track itself.
Not yet, we're busy working on the football field, getting
Yeah.
everything squared away there.
Yeah, no, I remember this one where they had everything.
Yeah.
How's the field going? Is it going good?
We got it sprayed on Monday, yesterday. Went back out and had another gentleman come out, who's gonna go and do the bidding of the removal of the vegetation. And then the sod plus the laying of the sod. And Mary Kington has her crew went ahead and replaced the 3 journeys as planned.
Thank you for the hard copy.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions about the survey?
Just a little idea as we move forward. Not a surprise,
No.
based on what we're hearing.
So we'll move to number 5, balance scale with 25 plus years added. Ms. Bray, can you explain that to us?
Basically, I just took and went from year 25 and added $525 in this particular, this would be the bachelor level, just to give everybody up through 30 years that same step between the steps.
Now, what did you add?
For bachelors, I added between the steps $525, which balances it so there would be the same difference between each step.
Oh, okay.
And this was just what Scott had asked for at the last meeting, where we were, instead of going to the 25 years, you were adding on from the 25 to the
'Cause it
30.
used to top out at 25.
Yeah.
I've analyzed this extensively and have some graphs I'd like to share.
Okay.
Before we go into your graphs, but go ahead and work your way down to Miss Diane. I just thought while we were right here, if Miss Bray wanted to finish her summary on that. So we've got the 5 additional years that you added in there, Miss Bray, and that added how much extra dollar-wise, just so everybody, we can summarize that, and then Scott can go into his.
Oh, let's see, I sent that to you folks.
Is that the very bottom?
Right.
205. A little over 200,000.
Roughly.
Correct.
Okay, Scott, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to make sure everybody knew that before we went forward. While Scott's bringing that up, thank you again, Dr. Frawley, for getting that survey out at the last minute on Friday. I know that was a quickie request, but I think it was good to at least get more than half the responses back in that short time.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to share, first of all, this is like a model salary scale. If it was ideal, this is what it would look like. You'd be evenly spaced between each degree level.
Scott, can you move the microphone over in front of you?
Sure.
So we're hearing you.
We can't hear.
You're talking away from us, so it's a little hard.
Yeah. Testing 1, 2.
Awesome.
All right. So this is what a model scale would look like. You would have evenly spaced between each degree level, and you would have a consistent step all the way up, because the step is more for experience and cost of living, is my understanding, right? Okay.
I think that's the way it's been set up previously. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to highlight just quickly a little bit of a comparison between some other counties. Okay. These were all blown up before I put them on this TV, so. So basically what this is Bledsoe County, 24-25. It's Cumberland County, 24-25. So that's the green and the red. And you can see that currently this year, Bledsoe County is actually paying right along with what we're paying. And if you look at year 26, Bledsoe County is actually paying more from there on out, from 26 to 30. This is for a bachelor's degree. So the Cumberland County Schools proposed balance scale, 25 to 26 plus 525 per step is this one right here. This was without doing the last 5 years. So you can see it flatlined there. And I actually have an option too that I've been working on that would be this purple line. And this is what Putnam County looks like for 25, 26. This is their current scale plus 1,000. So they need 2,000 to get their scale to 50,000 by the same time frame that we do. So I just assumed they would do 1,000 this year and 1,000 next year. So that's just a quick comparison. This is our current scale overall from bachelor's to doctorate. You can see we have, and I think this has been because of percentage raises over the years. So we have a larger gap between degrees at the start, and then we increasingly get larger as the years go on. I'm not talking any dollar amounts right now, just they're on here, but just the visual of what our salary scale looks like.
And each year, if you do a percentage raise, it'll do that.
That's correct.
Why-
And it'll keep getting
Right.
worse. Yeah.
That's all that's ever been done.
Right, yeah, so. It's hard to fix. I know, I'm with you. So this is the proposed balance scale that we're talking about without the, and you just did that on the bachelor's, right? Okay. So the bachelor's, you can see that we're continually growing larger gaps between each of the degrees. And doing the 525, 710, 890, and then 900 is going to exaggerate that. So I don't necessarily think that's the best ideal at this point. I did notice the data that you gave me was just, for doctorate was 900 stacked on what we currently have. It wasn't, I guess, the way you did these other three. It was just stacked on what we currently have. So I just graphed it the way you had it. So looking at that, I pulled in Putnam County, and this is their 25, 26 projections versus our 25, 26 proposed balance scale. And as you can see, our EDS, and this is just the first 3 degree levels. I'm going to do the doctorate in a minute. But the EDS is actually paying more all the way up until year 29. Then it'd be a good idea for our teachers to go to Putnam County so they can get their 5 highest years up, right? Work here with an EDS and then go there the last 5. But anyway, so you can see that we're getting a larger gap and we're also paying more than Putnam County for EDS. So now I'm going to go to the doctorate. And this was interesting to me too, so graphing this out. What we're proposing with the balance scale, our EDS is actually making as much as Putnam County's doctorate degree is. Until you get to year 25, and then we stop paying that out. And our doctorate is actually making more than Putnam County's doctorate until you get to year 29. So I just left these on here for reference, the lighter ones, but I just wanted to show that doctorate scale. So I've gone through these numbers, and obviously, like I said, I know it's difficult. But in order to balance this, there's a couple ways we could do it. We can freeze it on the EDS and on the doctorate for a certain number of years in the middle. It's still, because you can't pay less, you have to pay at least what they're already making. So even if you freeze it, you're not going to bring it back into a consistent scale like that model was. The other option would be to put some type of smaller step increase in there, like a 500 or something, as an annual step, and then create a new scale for all new employees that have EDS and doctorates that is consistently aligned with the bachelor's and the master's. That's another option. So going forward, you wouldn't have this balloon in the middle. You'd have more of a straight line, but anybody that's currently working in those areas would be, well, they would, you could do a small step, because you don't want to, I know you don't want to freeze it, but if that's the only way to bring it back is to freeze it. And it would take up to 6 years to get those 2 back in line with these other 2.
So that would be, you've identified those areas as being the ones that need to take the compression.
Yeah.
As we're balancing everything out.
Yeah. If you want a balanced scale, you would have to take those higher areas and start freezing them and bringing them in. So this was projected doing the same thing in 26, 27. And this is more than just freezing them. This is minimizing those pay raises to actually the previous year. So basically, I can show you what I did, but you're actually reducing the salary scale over time, because you don't necessarily have to have that full amount to step. You can step it smaller. That's what I'm getting at, to still meet the previous year.
So making it easy for reference, where I come from, we used to call those bands. So for each year, it's a band, so you're talking about narrowing that band
That's correct.
in order to rebalance things, which I had talked with Mr. Stepp about a little bit, and I think, Ms. Bray, you did some of that with that balance scale, I think, from what was relayed to me. But it sounds like we need to do maybe a little more in those areas.
I wanted to do a phase in versus the balance just for the first 2 degrees. So this is what I was proposing for 25, 26 on the first 2 scales, bachelor's and master's, versus the balanced proposal that we're looking at voting on. So it's actually a little bit cheaper, and it brings those 2 closer to that model.
Because we're reducing where we need to reduce, and we're raising where we need to raise, rather than just raising everybody, because that's still gonna put us in an imbalanced situation.
The only place that this master's freezes is on 1 year to do that.
You know which year?
Yeah, I've got it right here. I can show you. It would be that one right there, so year 11 or year 12.
Is that only for the certified?
That's for the BA system.
Yeah, it should be for certified.
I was playing around with actually equalizing the system-wide versus the,
Certified versus classified.
no, system-wide salary scale versus the regular scale. There's 2 different scales.
Okay.
I was actually bringing this one back to the other bachelor scale. So it would take 2 years to do that on the bachelor's and 2 years on the master's. But what I'm highlighting right now is just the regular certified scale, not the system-wide.
Did you check this again? I'm sure you did, those things.
Yeah, it's still meeting the state standards. Yeah, I didn't really reduce anything other than this step would be what the previous year's step was. Yeah, it's frozen at the previous year.
And Scott, I don't know if you took a look at the salary studies that Mr. Stepp had sent out, but I thought I had remembered something along these lines from that, and pulling it out and looking at it, that's one of the recommendations they had made. Increasing,
Yeah, I looked at.
for the bachelor's and master's, and then lessening the increase for the higher degrees, and that'll put us in the competitive level.
Yeah, reading that was why I went in and did.
Started digging in with it, yeah.
So if you look at the masters, you're gonna have 5 years that freeze on that one. Then if you did the system-wide, you're gonna have to freeze those the first year and these the second year. You're gonna bring the system-wide back to the certified scale. This is EDS. It's a little more difficult, and I actually did the 5 highest years on every scale. That proposal would actually, this was the balanced proposal here without the 5 years at the end. This would be what I've done with freezing salary scales.
So, a little hard to see from here, what's the variance?
That's just it's a little over 200,000. Well, it would be more than that with the new 200,000. It'd be about 400,000.
Adding the
I looked at that, but I didn't tally it, but I looked at, so it affects, the higher scales affect less people. As a matter of fact, I'm still in process on the system-wide doctorate, because there's only 4 employees on that scale. You could actually go ahead and, you could look at the salary scale early on up to the first employee on that list and just drop it back to what the current doctorate is if you wanted to, because there's nobody on it. Just to finish the graphs, this was the adjusted versus the proposed balance scale. So you can see it just drops somewhat by freezing that. So overall, that option would balance, more balance the salary scale and save about $400,000.
And bring us more in line with the recommendation from our evaluation that we had, the salary study we had.
What amount of time would it save us the 400 in year 1?
Year 1, yeah. And year 2, I actually have that in there as to what it could be in year 2. Overall, with the freezing the scales for the second year, it would cost about $707,000 the next year to go with the salary scale.
So if we were to say we're going to do this with the 25 year and not look at incurring that additional expense going up to the 30 this year, what would that difference be on the going to your balanced?
I didn't do that, but I can.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of effect on it because there is on the first 2 pay scales, because there's a lot of employees with bachelor's and master's.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be, you could save quite a bit by doing that, by freezing the last 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in looking at the scales that Ms. Bray sent out, it looked like it was going to be, and she gave us the dollar amount too, but we had enough employees there that was enough of an impact that we would have to be coming up with additional money this year that we don't have in order to do something like that. It's a nice thought to continue on. My other concern was if we continue on to 30 years, what are we going to be doing in the supervisory ranks so we don't have the leveling out between stepping from teacher to a supervisory position? You know, what's that going to look like if we go up to the 30 years? Is there going to be, are we going to be able to build in enough of a difference stepping into the supervisory one, or are we going to not have any gap there?
Well, I think that we're just doing a flat rate supplement for supervisory role. Wouldn't that kind of take care of that?
I think we're gonna have to look at that chart again, not this one, but the percents.
Mm-hmm, that's on the agenda for tonight, so,
So when we look at it, keep that in mind.
yeah.
So something I just been bouncing around in my head was freezing that salary scale, the supplement scale. I don't know how much that would actually save, but then looking at splitting that in half this year and half next year.
Yeah.
So it would create a median salary scale for 1 year. I'm talking about supervisor
Mhm.
and administrator.
Right. So we'd have to look at that because, again, that compression factor, since we have done less, or prior boards have done less in those areas, that's why we've compressed so much between there. And that was one of the recommendations in the salary study too. We didn't step up enough going into the supervisory roles.
Based on assistant principal.
And we're looking at between a 25 and 30 year cap, but we haven't talked, are we putting like we're not putting a monetary cap on the teacher position, we're just putting a year cap on there. So as raises continue, that position continues to get paid out, which then compresses more to the supervisory. So, you know, if we're looking at going to 25 or above 25 years, I mean, I don't think it's feasible this year, but if we're looking at doing it in the future, I would think we would have to put some kind of cap on it anyway, even if we went up to 30 and say it freezes at 30, but 30 years or this dollar amount for this particular position, so we don't continue to have that compression factor into the supervisory piece.
You can see what that does with the graphs that I showed. I mean, it's going to affect people's retirement, for one. The 5 highest years are going to be frozen at year 25.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They are now anyway.
Right. That's what they've had. Mm-hmm.
But in some cases, in most counties, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Most of them have already converted to 30.
Yeah. Most of them have already converted their insurance too. So we're trying to, you know, balance things here with what we think is best from what we've heard in the surveys. Yeah. So where do we fall with that? Yeah. You know, at this point, we're talking about spending money we don't have. So where's the best place to spend what we do? Yeah.
I was just going to show, this is, I think, what John was talking about the other day, but this is, these are the two different proposed salary scales, that the one that I did option 2 and the one that Ms. Ray did with the balance proposal.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, in 25-26, you're an assistant principal for pre-K 8. That's this one here. This is just based on base salary. This is not including the supplement. If you were a guidance counselor for a high school working the same number of days, 210, this would be this green line here.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason this one has that bow in it is because it hasn't been adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be running right along or less than if it's adjusted with a 210-day employee that teaches on a daily rate, so a little bit less than actually. So when you add that supplement, what we've done is we've created a new salary scale that has reduced supervisors and APs' daily rate of pay to make up for how much the supplement they're getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
And the board has done that over time.
Yeah. We take from here to give there, and we take from there to give here, and then we're all out of whack.
Which was the opposite of how it should have been.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just did this graphical representation just to visualize. I'm a visual person, so that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Van Winkle.
Thank you, Scott. Can you send that out to everybody?
Sure.
So we've got it. Good to be able to look at it a little closer.
You'll give it to Miss Diane. She can put it on the agenda for
Everybody.
I was working on it right before I came here. So.
Yeah. Ah.
Yeah, good work.
I think I left you a mouse, Diane.
You certainly did here.
Thank you.
Don't even have a tape.
Yeah.
Further discussion or questions on that part? A lot to consider and take in. Let's go ahead and look at these.
Well, I
certs.
have asked the board for years to, try and figure out a different scale, and I think that Mr. Van Winkle's come up with a kind of a solution that we can consider.
We're working towards one slowly but surely with the different steps that are being taken between Ms. Frey and Mr. Van Winkle, that's for sure.
Which one thing we've been looking at is number 6, the certified administrator to teacher scale, being on the same scale. Ms. Bray, that's your chart?
Basically, all I did was, I just took, and one by one, I took every admin, every supervisor, put them where they would be next year on the scale, and applied their appropriate supplement as they are today, and this is the additional funds that would be required.
Now, what item is that?
That's for your admin and your supervisors. If you were to take them and put them on the existing teacher scale, use the same supplements, the percentages, that as they sit today, this would be the additional funds that would be required. And that's with taxes and TCRS.
What would the raise be if we did 2% this year? Is that what they were going to do at supervisors and that?
Yes.
2%?
It's 2%. And this was just putting them on the teacher scale.
And then doing away with the 2%?
Correct. I just put them on the scale as they would be based on their years. And
Do you know how much the 2% would cost, is what I'm wondering? It's okay if you don't.
it's somewhere, but it's less than that.
Right. So what if you did half this year and half next year, would that be close to the 2%? So create a midpoint salary scale?
I create a different scale and I put them on the teacher scale.
Yeah, but do half this year and then half the next year and just plan for 2 years to, so you're saving half of that money is what I'm getting at.
But you would be just creating another scale
For 1
instead
year.
of putting them on the teacher
For
scale.
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be a step up, halfway point for this
Mhm.
year, and then put us on the,
But no
Full one.
pay increase. No pay increase other than going to that scale. That's what I'm getting at. If we were planning on doing a 2%, or both, we were going to
Right.
whether to do a 2% or not.
that would be the pay increase, putting them on that scale.
Right,
percent.
Yeah,
Just do away with the 2%.
do away with 2%,
Mhm.
but put them on the same scale. Like,
Yeah,
Give
which
them
we
the
wanna
same
work
thing.
towards having them all on the same scale, that's what we've been saying.
Yeah.
but
And
from
then
there on,
have
smooths it out.
a dollar amount that,
So
for each
essentially.
supervisory
about
position
that, right?
on the
have to
We
supervisor.
did it, broke it out to 2 years to do that.
Yeah,
Start with a new.
Half of that, I was wondering what the 2% would take out of it, but it's just kind of balance that out, that's what I was getting at.
so we wouldn't have the step up to the supervisory, or we would still do step up to supervisory on top of, you're saying no raise, so no step up to supervisory, just the moving them to the scale?
Yeah. That's what I was saying, so.
Yeah.
Moving to the scale takes care of the 2% raise for this year,
Yeah. That's what I was.
roughly.
Okay.
the same.
Okay,
But it gets them from there on the same scale. We can fix that percentage scale.
how would that work for compression?
Because
Everything's back on that same salary scale. So they wouldn't fall in that scale this year.
Right.
It'd be 26, 27, they would have to fall into that scale.
they're still increasing. But we are-
Mm-hmm.
But we can go back and look at that percentage scale, fix that.
Okay. Okay.
I have to grandfather some people for a year or two and get new people coming in on a flat rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that supplement scale, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Fix it.
It's been needing fixed for a long time.
Yeah.
That's the reason it's so divergent.
Yes.
Every time you add a percent to the raise,
Everybody's
Eats
percent's
it
a lot
out.
bigger.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
3 cents can go straight up.
Yeah. Yeah, we compressed in some areas and we've jumped up in others, because we've been doing that percentage.
And the reason it got out of whack is like Scott was saying, back when, they'd have fixed that percentage scale instead of switching it out, putting them on a different scale. We're taking care of it. Since they didn't, it's been out of whack ever since, and getting worse.
So we need to have Ms. Bray then go back to the drawing board on the,
I actually had it done the other night, my computer crashed, I went on to something else, so I lost it.
aw, not recoverable,
It
huh?
didn't recover, couldn't recover it.
Well, you
That's
gotta
maddening.
Save and save often.
Well, yeah, I've been saving every 5 minutes since then, so.
Set it to save every time you click. But you keep control.
Auto save, one thing, this doesn't have.
So can we, does everybody need to look at the new scales, I assume?
Well,
With these, a more balanced trajectory? Is that something we wanna look at doing at the work session on Thursday, or what do y'all think?
yeah, if that's got an option that we're all thinking about, and that would help with, we've been talking about this for years, and we push it underneath the table. But what are we doing with the non-classified, like the janitors and that kind of thing?
Non-certified,
That's
that's the
coming.
next one on the list. We haven't gotten there yet.
So I'm
Okay.
not tracking with what you're saying, sorry, my brain is just,
So what I'm saying is, or maybe I can just email it to you.
yeah, that might be, I'm kind of like you, I need that whole visual thing.
Yeah. What I'm saying is just take half of that for this year, create a scale where they all go up,
Midway.
yeah, midway, so it'd be a
Keep the
separate scale.
percentages
Yeah.
as
Or
they
you
are.
could take the current scale that you have and just do the half the difference in what it would be if they went to the teacher scale. Right. So that's the new scale for this year, and then next year they would move into the full certified scale.
And then keep the percentages, or no?
For now.
Well, you all were saying no
Yeah, I
on
was-
the percentages.
I was saying, I don't know how many employees fall that would actually get a percentage supplement increase this year. I don't know the answer to that.
3.
3. So it wouldn't affect it much then, right? But if you froze it until we can do something with the salary supplement, we can just leave it the same.
So
It's not huge.
I mean, we could, if it's not a bunch extra work figuring that, we could look at both.
Yeah, you just need to know what line they're in, and of course you do too, just what line they're in, what percentage. It's just 1% per year, right? Or
Well,
1% every
it's in
3 years.
buckets.
Yeah.
It's in buckets.
Sounds like you two need to schedule a powwow meeting and put your heads together to spit out the final thing for the work session. So you can get Ms. Bray's CFO side of it and merge it with what you've got. And again, I'm concerned with being competitive to a certain extent, but keeping in mind that, they do have different funding in different counties. And keeping in mind our entire package. So we have yet to talk about that too.
So I
And maybe
think-
we
I
can
think
come,
We've stayed more than competitive in the EDS.
Yeah.
Doctorate level.
yeah,
But we're not as competitive in bachelor's and master's level.
yeah.
That's, of course, those are the bigger buckets of funding, or funding expenditures, right?
bigger groups of people.
Mhm.
Bigger people, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my question. What's our population difference between the masters and,
The bulk of them are in the masters and bachelors, like 6.
Mhm.
It's at the bottom of that, they're added to the list. The bulk of your people are in those 2 groups.
And although I appreciate the additional education for EDs and PhDs, what the teachers do in the classroom and the results that they drive can come from bachelors and masters as well. And we need to make sure that we're equally rewarding that.
271 in the bachelor's. Standard. System-wide, there's 22. And if you go to the masters, there's 223 with the masters,
So over half, well over half.
25 system-wide with the masters. And when you get to the EDS, there's 45. And then in EDS, system-wide, there's only 2. That made that salary scale really easy to fix. And then the doctorate, there's 15 regular and there's 4 system-wide.
Okay.
So the bulk of our teachers are in
Yeah.
bachelor's and masters.
Yeah,
That's why you don't see a huge cost savings by fixing that scale.
Yeah. Well, because they're kind of positioned where you would expect them to be positioned, role-wise.
And when they go to get those degrees, they're not free. They
No,
invest quite a bit of time and money
Yes.
themselves.
yes.
The payback on some of them several years,
Yeah.
quite a few years sometimes, with the difference in the pay.
Wouldn't it be nice if they were rewarded for just a bachelor's or master's and didn't feel like they had to put that money out to move on if they were gonna stay in the teaching ranks?
Well, a lot of
You know?
people do it for different certifications.
Sure.
They do it for,
If you look at
Different
that-
learning
if you look at
standards
that
and-
Yes,
Model that I
yes.
showed, the difference in bachelor's to EDS was, I think, $2,600. It was the same from EDS, I'm sorry, from master's to EDS, and same EDS to doctorate.
So no matter what level they were working up, that pay difference was exactly the same.
2,600, it was that same way all the way up, that scale.
Mhm.
And the step increase varied some, I don't know why that was, but 600 to 1,000. But if it was 600 at the bachelor's, it was 600 at every level. And ours is not that way at all. It's really hard to-
Some of them is like $2,000.
If you look at,
you jump
Get
one
to
year
your-
$300, and next year 3,000, so.
if you get to year 25, the bachelor's to the next level is 7,000. And then from a master's to EDS is another 8,000. And then from an EDS to a doctorate is only 2,000. So, how that's,
Yeah, and I don't know how many people get EDS with the doctorate on top of it. You know, my understanding is they either go one route or the other, the EDS or the,
It depends on what they're doing it in. Because if they can use their EDS time and credits for the doctorate, they
doctorate.
do.
And that's probably why there was a little bit of a less step there, because it's a little bit of a less, you're kind of merging over into it, doing a little step up versus the bigger step, but
Right.
the
Yeah.
doctorate costs a lot more than
Yeah, those doctorate hours.
yes, they do.
Percentage.
There's more involved, but if you're going from an EDS to a doctorate, which you were saying was only 2,000, that's why, because, I mean, to Chris's point, if they can take a lot of that and apply that to actually stepping up
Yeah.
that last little bit to the doctorate, there's not a huge difference between the
If you go
two.
to Wetzel County, their pay scale for EDS and doctorate is the same. They don't have a separate pay scale.
Well, and that's where I was saying, you know, it seems like at this level, particularly, you know, the K through 12, they tend to go one route or another for career trajectory, educational wise, versus doing
At the
both.
state level, they just pay for either bachelor's or advanced degree.
Mm-hmm, yes, yeah, they lump all that advanced
And it's
degree
all
together,
lumped together.
right.
Which probably explains where, as you said, Bledsoe, probably why they didn't do that.
Because they don't have to.
Right.
We want to pluck the best of everything and roll it together, so we're setting a good standard and bar here.
If anybody on the back row has something to say, we'd like to hear it. Have we said anything incorrect so far?
Are you sure? I see some faces. Yeah, really, we want input. If you have input, please.
Come on, ladies, be brave.
We're trying to work this out best of everybody's interest here.
Okay, so the next item to go over is the classified scale at 2% raise.
And this was what we were gonna give them, you know, whether we changed anything, I mean, that was normally 2%.
Yeah, that's the normal 2%.
This was the proposed original 2% raise for all of them.
Still looks pretty low, but
It is.
Yeah, this is,
looks,
it is bad. We gotta have 12 years of experience before they even get close to what starting out at working for the county makes.
I think what we probably should do is study this with our lean frog study and some other things. Look at what we're doing, decide where we are.
and
You know,
why,
what's the goal for our 5-year plan? Do we want to do $14 an hour, $11? And we can develop a 4 or 5 year way to get there.
Well, I think we've got to get competitive at least with our own county, or else we're training up employees for them, and they'll quit us to go work for them because they make more money automatically.
yep,
And that's what I was talking about. You know, how much does it cost us to hire someone each time, even for a mower or whatever? And I mean, if you just Google it, how much does it cost to hire an employee? It's $4,700 is the Google number. So, I mean, there's a cost involved with hiring even a lawnmower because it takes time from someone else to train them. So if it's $4,700 every time we hire one person, if we do that 2 or 3 times a year for one position, we've paid their salary. We've paid a whole nother person's salary.
So we had some other options besides the 2% that Miss Bray had stepped out for us, with the dollar amounts on it. Keeping in mind that we're looking at the entire package, which includes benefits, time off, so we're not just comparing hourly pay. And we did have the Lean Frog study that had given us some suggestions. We took a big step, was it 3 years ago, on hourly pay based on their recommendations. And Ms. Bray, I'm trying to remember, did we do anything else within the scale? I know we stepped them up, year before last, but I'm trying to remember, did we do anything else within the scale to bounce it out anymore at that time?
No, I mean, it's always been balanced between the steps. What we did was there was different raises given to different classifications to be marketed at that time.
Okay.
So
And then-
different people got a different percentage at that point in time based on their recommendations.
So we stepped them up with the raise, we changed the amount of the raise based on that study.
Correct.
And then last year,
just
we
did
voted to allow the additional experience to be counted, so we could bring them in at a higher level rather than at the starting level.
Not just capping it at 5 years.
So how many people would you say, and I think this came up once before in our meetings, but just to reiterate for everybody, how many people would you say we actually bring in at that very bottom zero
I
experience?
counted the other
range?
day, someone asked, it's like, we have like 20 people on that right now. So
Okay.
the majority of the people are somewhere up higher. on the
Some
scale.
level of experience. Okay. And I know we've talked about the fact that including benefits, when we compare to other districts, we're very similar for our classified because of that benefit package that we offer.
Your insurance with your medical and dental on your single coverage is right at $10,000, depending on the plan you get.
So Scott, you had talked about doing the less than the 120, a little bit more, a higher percentage, and then keep the other at the 2%. So we had looked at different amounts on that. Doing that's gonna cost us more, period. But if we wanted to bring it up a little bit, a breaking point was 6%. That put everybody at the starting rate of at least in a $12 range, the minimum, which was the custodial.
Starting hourly rate in Bledsoe County for custodian is $12.77.
$12.77.
And their benefits were 80/20, I think, there, if I'm remembering correctly.
And they're 236 employees.
Is that a maintenance custodian, or they did not distinguish?
They didn't distinguish between.
Well, our maintenance is at 1324, so I don't know how that.
Did you say Bledsoe?
All custodians, that's the only one I have.
Bledsoe's got 3 schools. We've got 12.
They also don't have the needs that we have in front of either.
I'm not sure about that. They pay pretty well. They get their money from somewhere.
Yeah.
They get it from the state.
They just don't have to spread it out as thin. So one of the things I wanted to say to keep our perspective, being one of the largest employers in the county, we want to pay a prevailing and good wage. We can't be competing with private sector all the time for everything, because then they just raise their prices to pay their people more. That's where we get into chasing our tail.
Right.
Same for the county employees. We do have 80% of the budget, but we've got 80% of the people too. So it's, when you compare percentages of employees in the school versus the county or at somewhere else, you kind of have to put it on an even keel somewhere. And if we need to raise it, then we need to raise it. If we don't need to, then we don't.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying though. If we're bringing people in and hiring them, giving them training, and then 6 months or a year later, then they get a job with the county or somewhere else, then we're back to square one, hiring someone else. By the time we do that 3 times, we've paid for a completely different person's, an additional person's salary.
If you do it once for 3 people, you've done that.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're necessarily competing with the county for positions, and here's why I say that. So like on step 1, custodian mowers, there's only 2 county facilities that have people on payroll mowing. And that's the complex and the health department. Everywhere else gets inmates to mow. So, and then again with maintenance custodians, I'm not sure what all's in their scope of work, but they might be getting closer to like the facilities maintenance department. But I'm just not sure that I know we're not training them and sending them to the county's workforce.
Well, no,
I just don't
I'm
know
not
that
saying.
I don't think we're necessarily comparing apples to apples here either.
I'm not saying necessarily going to the county, but as soon as they, and I look at it like, we're getting some young people in to start, mowing and doing this, and I mean, because that's more of a, I don't know, a starting point, you know what I mean? For a lot of people. And
Usually those folks, honestly, here that do that are retired people. We don't have in the classified realm a lot of what I would consider young people.
Yep, same.
yeah, because it's not enough money for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for somebody to live
Like our
on.
bus drivers, a lot of these folks are folks that have been somewhere else, like the mowing in the summer, that's usually attractive to them. They
Right.
like that. The custodial work, a lot of those folks are retired from another position.
Yeah.
Now, your teacher assistants and people like that, that's very different.
But is that part of the reason why it's hard to ask our maintenance department to do certain tasks that we have to subcontract out?
There's only 10 of them.
Exactly, that's
And we've got
kind of my
12
point.
schools in 2 other locations.
Yeah.
We have 1 electrician, 1 plumber, and 2 HVAC people.
And so a lot of those people are here mainly for the benefits. So if we start cutting the benefits, then we cut them back to the 80-20, then we're gonna start losing more of those people as well.
Well, it's where we put the priorities. So if they're saying the survey number 1's pay, if we're gonna raise the pay, then something has to give.
Exactly.
We're saying we're raising the pay to an equal rate or higher than an equal rate, then we also have to make sure when we're looking at the entire package that we're adjusting that as well.
Right.
So where's the priority with it?
Well, where is our, what kind of staff are we looking for? Are we looking for more of the retired people to come in and work? Or are we looking for a younger generation to be able to do more work? You see what I mean? So if we're looking for a younger generation to do more work, then we're gonna have to really focus on the salary and getting that up some. But
And they
if
don't
we're
have
just-
kids and they probably aren't as concerned about the benefits at that
Exactly.
age as when if we have the
If
older
we're-
folks that are coming in that are working, they may want to be supplementing benefits because they don't have it as a retiree yet.
Right. And don't necessarily, you know, then we're not necessarily able to get the same amount of work.
So we're looking at the community too, and what we're drawing from the community. We do have a high retirement population here.
Yeah.
So the starting custodian in Putnam County is 1507.
Yep.
1277 in Bledsoe County.
So we're training them for that.
And ours is 1158.
Well, it depends on whether it's like your mower or your maintenance custodian. Maintenance custodian's at 1324.
Substitute custodian in Putnam County is 1266.
We don't even have that.
Yeah, our maintenance custodian would be at 1407 with the 2%. Coming in with no experience whatsoever.
That would be 1764 in Putnam.
They have a lot of money up there.
For the maintenance custodian?
Yep.
So I was just told that Bledsoe County had more money than we did too.
They get it from the state. Yeah, that's all they have. They have no resources down there at all.
We're below both of them. So
Yep.
Oh, if we could give 10%, that'd be awesome, Scott, from your recommendation, but I don't see
make
that
some
we're in a
money.
position to do that. If we're gonna,
we came up with $400,000 in savings in salaries. Certified.
but we're over our budget by how much?
That was over
Few mil.
600.
Yeah, I mean, that helps to balance some things out, but we're still over, so if we're taking little bites of things, going all the way up to the 10% is not, I don't see that as a little bite. If,
We're over budgeting 15%. Brought that up last meeting.
over budgeting. Oh,
Fluff,
some extra built in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
We usually come in under what we budget. So
I still
are there
don't.
any other places we can cut?
Well, the big bucket really would be benefits. And then if we're looking at the maintenance sheet, you know,
We don't want to cut maintenance.
the project portion of the maintenance sheet, the tennis courts.
Yep.
Personnel at central office. Okay.
Well, we've already
Which
got
ones?
Miss Gray working 2 positions. I don't,
She has an assistant now. Looking for that.
I don't get the attack on central office.
Not attacking, I just asked, is that an option?
So you should come hang out here for a day and see
I've been around this
how
my
much
whole
these
life,
people
Sherry.
work.
I've been around this my whole
I don't
life.
care about the rest of your life. I'm talking about today with these people. You're talking about cutting jobs. So what do the teachers do in the classrooms if they don't have central office?
Well-
Teach kids.
But there's,
So-
and that's where,
Oh my
that's where,
God.
I guess that's where there's discrepancy is because there are ways to reorganize up here, not necessarily cutting jobs, but moving people back to the classrooms or wherever. It's not like you're firing people, you're just trying to reorganize to make it the most efficient.
So who
way
would you
possible.
move? Tell me who you would move. At what point? What department in here would you get rid of?
Not getting rid of any department.
But you're saying reassign them back into the classroom. So who would you take away from this office to put back in the classroom again?
I'm saying there's options out there that
Well, what are they?
As we get to- as we get
think
to-
about that and give me some answers to who you would take from the central office and
I
put
can
back
do
in the
that.
classroom.
If you really want.
yeah.
Excuse me?
I can do
I
that.
said, I've got.
Start reading it. Go ahead, tell us.
We need a director of schools is what we need.
Yes.
Yeah, we had one. We had a really good one.
Yeah,
Till y'all got rid of him.
I see that.
Yep.
I think that was gonna be the point that I was gonna bring up. I don't think reorganizing up here at this point is gonna play a part right now in what we're trying to figure out.
Right,
That
that's
might be
what we're
something we
gonna
can look at going forward, but also
Can't do this.
we've got folks working at a certain level with a certain skill level here. And
Right.
even if we say, you know, hey, we can dwindle down some, we're taking somebody at a higher pay with a certain skill level and we're plugging them back into a classroom. So we have to look at whether that's the best use of resources as well. But I don't think we're at a point that we can be having that discussion right now.
So what all is actually funded by local money that is supporting federal program? Does anybody know the answer to that?
Say again, local money going to a federal program.
Yeah, so we have support personnel that are supporting federal programs that are being paid with local money. How much is that?
So are you talking about the folks that work in the office doing all the filing for the federal money?
Countywide, I'm not talking about central office. How many people that are supporting title funding are funded by local money?
I don't think we've broken it out that way.
I think
Because
we were
we're against
moved
it.
off the agenda just a little bit. Let's talk about the benefits on number 8. And we'll come back and recap all this. Ms. Bray.
This is just what was asked or prepared if we went to an 80-20 split, what the savings would be, 70-30 split, and this just GP 141. That's with the current census, I just used the last monthly bill that I had.
Ms. Bray, is that everybody going to 80-20 that has full coverage?
Yes,
now?
that's everyone, 100%.
So a thought there that comes to mind is if we did go to 80-20, but increase salaries, that salary increase actually supports a better TCRS retirement, correct?
High five.
Yeah. It's actually better in the long run for compounding for the employees versus the out-of-pocket expense of benefits. Because it's gonna be year over year when it goes into the salary for them.
But on the flip side, as you were saying, on some of our classified folks paying 20% of what they currently have would eat up any pay rise that they have.
And I think you did a chart up, Ms. Bray, that I printed off here that looked at doing, making some changes rather than going like with a 80-20 split or 70-30 split, looking at the availability of the plans and the cost associated with the plans, and also doing a,
The 50 split on the dependent coverage was the next.
and yes, also that as well. So if you talk about that a little bit.
Basically, I just took, this is all the plans that we offer. This is, basically shows total premium. If we continue to pay the single coverage, and then if we just split whatever dependent coverage, this shows the savings. It would be, with the current population, current people, number of people in these buckets, which is what you can see here, be $160,327 a month. And that's basically just splitting any kind of dependent coverage that they have.
So the employee themselves would still be at
Be covered at
100%.
100%, which is kind of what I was accustomed to in my previous life.
So yes, is it You said it was about 10,000 per employee.
roughly, depending if they take the best plan in their dental and their life and all of it rolled up.
So just high level, you go 80/20, that means they're paying $2,000 a year for insurance, right?
It's mostly medical. Which for somebody that doesn't, like I said, doesn't make a great deal less money.
And they don't get the benefit of the dependents now,
Correct.
anyway.
Correct.
They just get their own.
That this, full disclosure, this only impact one group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we have two people that currently, I think, classified that pay for any kind of dependent coverage.
Yeah. I don't quite understand why that got so out of whack, where we're giving a certain segment the benefit of dependent coverage and not the entire employee population.
Well, they get twice as much life insurance too. There's some anomalies like that.
Yeah, there are. And the digger you deep, the more, or the further you dig. The digger you deep.
The digger you dig.
But
I
the
knew what
further
you
you
meant.
dig, the more you find those anomalies that have been set up previously.
Does anybody know why it's like that? And I guess the reason it stands out so much to me is, you know, at my work as a department head for the county, I'm offered the same insurance as my one employee in my department, as the same 10 employees at the fire department. Every county employee gets the same benefits. Does anybody have any idea why we're?
I've only been here 6 years and it was like this when I came here, so I'll plead the fifth on that one.
I mean, I don't want to sit here and say there's not a good reason, I'd just like to know if there is a good reason.
Well, there's some local
What is
lore
it?
on that, but none of us, I think, were on the board at that time. so.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott, you've been around here a long time, tell the truth. I mean, it's always been like this, has it not? On the insurance?
I don't know if you want to.
Over time, I think it has gotten negotiated different ways.
It's probably negotiated.
It's been changed. Who knows which year it was, 40 years ago?
But it isn't part of the MOU.
There was a time in my life that I didn't pay attention to education.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was too busy teaching.
All right, well, what are y'all's thoughts on the benefits piece? Looking at the entire compensation piece, if we're talking about coming up more on pay.
It's tied together with the hourly rates for the non-certs, for sure. I mean, if one place you get $14 an hour and no benefits, but here you get 12 in benefits, kind of have to balance out, which is more important. What we should look at is what's the best we can do for our employees, and not go over the line in money. That's hard to do.
The biggest issue on that, Chris, is that you're looking at 12 with benefits, but you're only paying for 182 days.
Yeah.
So then you're only looking at 17,000 a year. And you say you pay 2,000 for insurance. You're happy with that.
So for every dollar, that's about $1,000 a year increase because it's just half-time. But year round, it'd be 2,000. 40 to be exact.
From that 17,000, they still gotta pay taxes and everything else too, right? So,
And this is a tax-free benefit.
Well, we haven't seen seem to make much headway with this discussion though. I mean, what are we?
I'm just
this phrase-
saying, we
yeah.
looked at the 80/20 and 70/30, 50 split dependent coverage,
Yep, yeah.
insurance plan for new hires. One of the things that we're hanging on here is that, hanging might not be the right word, but until we can approve scales, everything stops.
Yeah.
We can't go ahead with budgets till we know what that is. As we're gonna see with number 9 here, discussion of 142 and 143 budget presentations. Until we know what our non-cert pay scale is, they can't know what their budgets are.
Right.
Well, I think some of this, it's all weaving hand to hand because of where we are budget-wise and because of some of the corrections we're trying to take in order to get things more balanced moving forward, to get us out of the hole that we're in. Some of this is gonna have to play in with some of the major projects that we started to go down the path with before we kind of came back to this piece. Benefits and salary, and really those are the only big buckets. So trying to balance those benefits and salary, where we're doing right by our employees, like you said, and staying competitive with the entire package. And then if there's anything with those, I think we've all pretty much agreed there's really no maintenance without getting in a bigger hole with that, but it would be if there's anything on that major project list. And I think that might kind of help us a little bit with what we can do, because the salary and the benefits are the entire package. To approve that salary scale.
I think I saw a hand go up a while ago.
Stephen?
My question, we're way past that, but we were talking about, what is the turnaround we're experiencing right now?
The turnover.
The
Yeah,
turnover,
the turnover, right.
Yeah.
less than 10%. Less than 10%.
Yeah.
For
Both
teachers and all, or just for
Just in general, I just did all of it.
all of it?
I just took the number of people hired, people left, it's a raw number.
And it really is retirement a driver for the retirees that, benefits, is that a driver for them to come and join, work here?
I would think so, because we have a lot of people that once they get to the 30-year mark, they get their insurance paid until they're 65. But a lot of people like Ms. Hale, you retired at what, less than 30?
2016.
How
But
many years?
if they work, like, even if they're 55, their insurance is paid until they're 65 and they go on Medicare.
Yeah, that's for the teachers and that, right?
Well,
I'm talking about the
classified-
maintenance people that we're hiring that are retirees.
They come back and work for us.
Or,
No, just in
say
general.
Somebody who's
Oh, yeah.
retired.
Oh, just for, I think they just do it for enjoyment. And some of
Right.
them need the insurance, some of them don't, they just do it for enjoyment.
that-
And to be out, they like being, a lot of them will tell you, I like being with kids.
Yep. So the benefit package is not really a driver for them.
Not so like someone with a family that's out there trying to
Correct.
get started. No.
The question now, I forgot it.
Because we don't have a whole lot of those, what you were saying earlier,
What, the federal programs that are paid for in the central office is by federal money, correct?
Correct,
So it's a totally different budget.
correct.
What happens when some of that federal money goes away and those positions?
They'll go away.
Okay.
So, do we still have ESSER positions in place right now that we're paying for out of local funds?
Not in central office.
We have 2.7 secretaries in federal programs.
I'm not paying for anybody out of federal programs.
All that's coming out of federal money?
Correct. They're not on anything in general.
I guess that answers that question then. Okay.
So how many positions are we paying paying for at school now that federal money was supporting because of those positions.
Only thing I can think of is the ESSER interventionist, the ladies that are the interventionist, whatever you want to call them, they took care of your, what were those? All core.
They took, they were all for it.
Tennessee All Core, which was ESSER.
And what the board voted to do last year was to add 12 120-day of those people to help meet the 3rd and the 4th grade tutoring.
So are we paying for that out of local now?
That was, yes.
Yes.
And I think we need that
The federal
small.
money went away, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we need that, those positions, because they do small groups.
And they're mostly your retired teachers, so there's no benefits attached to
Would
that.
Title I money support that?
So if you took Title I money to pay for that, then you would be taking it from the
Schools.
individual schools. Because it's the Title I budget is divided by the schools. And the schools then would not be able to have the assistance that they used to pay their Title I or the programs that they use.
So what added benefits is Title I giving us now?
Well, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
We've had Title I for a long time.
Yeah. I'm just asking where all that money's being spent and what benefits is it giving us right now? Is it adding, is it helping with our test scores? Is it helping with classroom reduction?
So what happens is classroom reductions is gone. That's not even something that we can do anymore. We could years ago, but I don't think that's anything we can do now. So the Title I funds is divided among the schools. So the schools do a needs assessment based on what they want to spend their Title I budgets on, and then they get to do that. So that would be, you'd have to look at each individual school, look at their data and see.
Does the LEA have the ability to pull that out of the school and use it elsewhere?
That I'm not sure of.
Mm. What about the coaches that,
They come out of our Title, I think they come out of Title.
the coaches?
I don't, that's not.
Yeah, I don't.
world,
Mm-mm.
But I think that they come out of Title I as well. Because years ago, when the coaches went into place, the Title I budget was used for professional development. And a lot of the money was not being used. So Mr. Schlafer was the federal programs person at that time, and he brought in the coaches.
Right.
I don't mean to have my back to you.
You're fine. And now, are we using coaches in a different capacity now? Because I think, when I was teaching, the coaches were regular teachers, and then they did some extra work after school for that extra money with the children. So it's different?
We have an ELA coach, we have a math coach, and we have an instructional technology coach. They are stationed in a school every day.
Okay.
And they provide additional support to teachers.
And that's paid out of Title.
Based on the direction of the principal,
The principal tells them what they need.
for them to do that day.
And so any teacher can access their, their expertise
Absolutely.
if they ask.
Yes. And a lot of times the coaches will send an email, I'm going to be in your building tomorrow. If you need something, let me know, this is where I'll be. They check in with the principals. They're supposed to be doing walkthroughs in classrooms.
How do you think that's working out?
Well, we changed their schedule this year. So 2 years ago, we changed their schedule. They did a rotation. They were at a school a week. Then we changed that up, and then it's been changed up again. And we have a new technology coach. He came on board in February, because our technology coach took another job. And so,
And are teachers making use of these coaches?
to my understanding, yes.
Is there palatable differences that you're seeing, improvements because of them? I mean, are they really, I guess it's that, like she said, are the teachers, what's the response from these coaches?
I think it depends upon the school. And, if you've got lots of new teachers, they may be providing more support to the new teachers than they are some of the veteran teachers. And that,
But I mean, if there's like improvements improvement in test scores and things like that. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Are the physicians driving results? Is what we're
Yes.
getting at. Mhm.
Yes. Is there a way to measure that?
Well, you know, if a school's test scores goes up, that could be a
Right.
factor of many
Yeah.
things. And I could say, sure, it's the coaches.
Yeah.
They've cost every bit of that to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could survey the principals to see their thoughts on the effectiveness of the coaches. We typically do that before the end of the school year. It just hasn't happened yet.
So it's teacher discretion. I mean, they're there for everybody to use, but if the teacher doesn't use them, I mean, we can't
Right.
force him
Right,
to
and some
use
teachers,
it.
and some teachers don't want them.
Is
Yes.
there a situation where they may be assigned to work with the teacher because of certain results? What they see is happening in the classroom, they know that this teacher could use coaching in a certain area, and
That
so
would
they've
be based-
asked.
That would be based on the principal's discretion.
Yeah, okay, so it's not just by teacher request, it's also by
Good coverage and
the
improvement.
need basis. Mm-hmm.
Well, are these coaches certified teachers?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Most cases, veteran teachers.
And at the end of this year, we'll be relooking again at the interventionists and seeing where our results fall for those positions for moving forward into the following year.
That was a request by the principals, that they asked for that.
Good.
And all these people, 120-day contract, right?
And it's a little less than 90.
It's
Just because
80
the,
days.
it's 80 days because of the population, but they're 120s.
And they are all certified teachers.
But do they work with the children? The coaches
Yes.
work with the children?
The
Okay.
no, coaches do not work with the children, they work with the teachers.
Ah.
With
The interventionists work
But
with
the
the children.
interventionists that he was asking about work with the children.
Okay.
Small groups, like what you said earlier.
Okay. Not like 120-day contracts?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
In that plan, we're receiving about $21,000 in funding from the government, from the federal government, for Title III. So how are we funding Title III?
Title III is, ESL, right. I'm,
Now, we get some for unique learning needs through TISA.
right.
I don't think it's enough to cover that whole program.
So your ESL teachers are paid out of general purpose budget.
But we do get TISA for that as well.
If that falls under a unique learning need. I'm not real familiar with that aspect, but my assumption, probably not going to assume, but my assumption would be that maybe part of the Title III director's salary is out of that. I'm not sure. There's a few programs that we have to have, like Transact, and that is where you can take a document in English and convert it to a different language, because some of our ELs are different language other than Spanish. So I think maybe that would come in there. There was another program that we bought, I think called Elevate, I'm not real sure of the name, for EL students to use, and I think that maybe came out of that money,
I know Transact did.
so.
That's something that had to be approved, because I asked that question. It has to be approved by whoever approves translation.
Okay.
You
So
can't
I
just
know-
use,
I know
no Google Doc
We're
translation.
getting down to the deadline here, but I'd really like to see us start going more toward looking at our funding at a school level and seeing how we're actually spending that money for the schools. You know, I've been asking for that since August of last year. I actually calculated some of it out, but I kind of ran into some roadblocks there and some timing issues.
Okay, so are you saying their title budgets, or?
I'm saying our whole TISA funding budget and our federal funding budget, what we're receiving and how we're spending it, so that we can do a better job at breaking this budget down whenever it comes time. Right now, it's just all in one big bucket, and you guys are telling us where you're spending it at. I'd just like to see how it's being divvied out.
From a personnel perspective,
Every perspective.
So let me make sure and see if I'm understanding what you're saying. So per school, you're wanting to know the money that comes in based on TISA, and that's for, like, that would be their ADM money and their unique learning needs and all of that. and then their title monies, each school, how much they get. Okay. So then are
And
you,
then also our local fund.
for each school?
For each school. How we
So
spend
that would be based on what we say that we spend per student, correct?
Yes.
But that's a little bit different based on the different schools because of the different sizes.
And the size, demographic and size. And so I know you've heard me say this for the last 3 or 4 months, but cookie cutter in a lot of areas, like the RTI, for instance, or one of these schools.
Correct.
And some schools, and I've said this in meetings before, some schools have 90 students that they need support, and some schools have 20 students that need support.
Correct.
And so we're not supporting some students as well as other students with that cookie cutter approach.
So the only time that you're, well, one example of a not of a cookie cutter is going to be Pine View. Because a lot of times, like, their 120-day intervention is only an 80-day intervention. And they have some other,
They're a librarian, they split a librarian with another position, they don't have a full.
so that would be the only example of that, but I see what you're saying.
And I sent some information on our cost per school.
Yes, she did. And it was not broken down as much as that. So I still have that email sent back to ask for that to be broken down.
You sent it to me?
No.
Okay.
I guess because I understand, and I don't understand Scott's math head, because I know that's way beyond mine, but whenever we're trying to find maybe things that we're paying for repetitively or whatever, things that we're trying to break down a budget to where's all of our money going. It's hard to see where all of our money is going and making sure we're not double paying or whatever else, or double budgeting or something like that by getting these just buckets of here's the teachers, here's this, and we're not asking to try to eliminate anything. We're trying to see where are our inefficiencies, where are those things that we can help fix.
I think what Scott's asking, because this goes back to my previous life, we had 12 locations, 2 countries. I budgeted by location, everything, and it all rolled up into consolidated financial. Everybody had a labor budget, they had a maintenance budget, they had a supplies budget, blah, 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 blah. And the manager at that location was responsible for that, and that's more what you're talking about. Now, because I thought about that, the accounting system is in no way set up to even accommodate that. But the one thing I think you would get into is you could say, okay, I'm going to give the principal at SMHS this much for labor. But then you're tying their hands by saying, based on the way we pay, well, I can't hire this person because they're going to cost me more money because they've got an EDS. Now, this may be the best qualified person, but I've only got enough left for, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly
So
what you're saying.
that part
And I
of
know
it would
that
be.
it can't be dollar for dollar. I know it can't be, but what I'm wondering is, percentage-wise, how far off are we at those schools that have a higher need versus those schools that don't? Percentage-wise. And is there any way we can work to balance that out? So for instance, this is a question I asked last year about the ELL or ESL. So we have a high population of students that need that support at a couple schools. We have now 9 teachers to teach that. We have one school with 3 students, and we have another school with 40 students. And I know we have those teachers traveling, right? Can we consolidate the number of teachers down to 4 if we have those students at a school on one side and a school on the other side? So I was told that could be an issue with some civil rights.
Correct, because you can't deny that student not to go to their zone school.
But we do that with CDC.
Yes,
Because and the reason we did that is because we couldn't support in our community, we couldn't build schools that supported those needs
That's, it's
at
correct.
every zoned area.
So Martin's
So
one of the cities.
if we can't afford 9 ESL teachers, why can we not consolidate that to 4 and have it at 2 schools? Or 6 and have it at 2 schools and save 3 certified salaries? And I'm not trying to get rid of anybody. I'm just trying to find ways to be more efficient with the money we have.
So I think just to summarize, all the discussion that we're having is when we bring the new director on, we'd like to charge the new director to look at efficiencies across the district.
We did that with
Working-
this director.
Working with the administration so that he can come back or she can come back to us and tell us these are the areas, and the department heads, these are the areas that we found that maybe we can make some adjustment. This is what we need from the board. Because really as a board, we shouldn't be digging into this
Yeah, I understand.
detail and micromanaging this
I'm not trying to
detail.
micromanage anything.
But I know where you're,
We're being asked to cut $7 million out of this budget, and every penny.
I get where you're coming from on it. I do, but, I'm thinking that needs to be an ask that's gonna roll down to everybody involved and then a report back to us. And it's not just gonna be important for us, it's gonna be important for the commission too, right? We're going to them saying, we need a reset, we're gonna have to work as partners going forward for the expense. And we're gonna need a business case, so this is all business case that we would,
So you have community members and commissioners that wanna know where we're gonna cut this budget at, right? They wanna know that. And basically, we don't have, the board doesn't have the potential to do that. We're talking about things that are penny ante that are not gonna make a huge difference in this budget right now. 10%, 6% on a salary increase is not gonna make a difference in a $7 million deficit.
well, and part of the problem that has gotten us here in the past, over however many compounding years is, it's always been just kind of shifting the money from here to there to here to there. And not really digging into where can we see some actual gains on things. So I think that needs to be something that when we're interviewing, right, we're talking about, and that we're working with everybody on going forward, because we do have to be careful with, as a board, crossing over into what needs to be managed from that side and then reported to us versus what we're trying to manage as a
And
board.
I guess what I'm having issues with is like with trying to cut $7 million out of the budget, and we're sitting here looking at the big bucket. I don't see where we can cut $7 million. I mean, I just don't. If you want to push maintenance off for another year, then next year it's going to be, we're going to double that maintenance thing. Every time you push maintenance and all this other stuff off,
It only gets more expensive.
it only gets more expensive. It only costs more money.
Well, there's no clear-cut, easy solution here.
There's not.
That we're gonna have to make some tough decisions, and I'm kind of just looking at how we can blend some things. So we kind of veered off from the benefits piece to look at some other areas that we could, I've been thinking of somewhat of a blended version with the benefits piece that Ms. Bray has provided us with some information on. If we could, to everybody's point, not cut the employees, take away where they're just taking their, although I've had it happen to me year after year in the private sector, but take away the pay to supplement insurance that we're taking away. If we did some sort of blended version where we still cover the employee, which is better than most of the districts and other companies, right? But did a split cost with the employee with their children, their dependents. Maybe we look at the plans and reduce what we offer plan-wise, so that helps to reduce the cost, and Ms. Bray worked some of that up for us. And then at the last meeting, we also talked about grandfathering and starting with the new folks that we hire, maybe doing like an 80-20 with them, but the current employees are at the 100%. And if we did some kind of blended version with that, then we could have some more money to put into the pay category that has been rated the #1 priority from the survey that we sent out.
Health benefits was second
Right.
out of half of our employees.
Yeah.
So,
So, but again, without really whacking at the benefits and did a little blended, because if they still get 100%, they just don't have as many coverage options. That saves the district. But still gives them the benefits at the 100%. And, you know, again, most places aren't covering even the 100% for the employee. So if we looked at doing something with the dependents, that's another big bucket area.
So I see that that's gonna help employees, or certified employees, because we're gonna bump their salaries, which is gonna help their retirement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that being a huge help. I mean, it's actually a hindrance to the hourly classified.
How do you see that as a hindrance? We're still paying 100%. They might just maybe not have the top package available
No,
across the
I'm
district.
80/20 would be a hindrance.
Oh, bringing on,
Yeah.
for the grandfathering
Yeah.
piece. Okay. And, you know, we could make that decision next year, depending where we are on the budget, if we need to say, we're gonna grandfather and from here on out, we're gonna, depending on where our savings is in relation to where our raises are this year, where we fall overall budget-wise, then next year we could revisit that piece.
I think if we do that, like, to me, my biggest fear with touching the benefits is not the certified pay scale. It's in the classified, where we might have a single mother or father that's got their kids on the policy.
No.
They don't,
They don't?
no, classified doesn't have
can't
dependents
afford it.
available.
Yeah.
No, only the teachers have that.
They can't afford it.
They'd be paying us to come to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Well, no, I get that, I just,
Yeah.
that's been my fear with it the whole time is, we're all trying to buy $300 worth of groceries on a $100 bill and it ain't working. I
Yeah,
didn't
no, they
know
don't get
upset
that.
Yeah.
Then-
And that's kind of the point,
classified.
anytime you,
Yeah. Now,
Can
what
you
I would
tell us-
what I would love to do is say, use Miss Bray's 50/50 here and say we do it across the district, right? So then the classified could go ahead and put their dependents on and pay 50%. But if we don't have that many that would be in that category,
they couldn't afford
then it
that.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for us, how many classified versus certified that is? Is that something you could tell us?
I'll have to count it, because if they come on, this is just, what I've had up there is like the grand total of the whole bill,
Mhm.
and then I'll have to count it.
Just for the reason that I hate saying that a certain segment gets this and the
But I
rest
can
of the
tell you
district
this,
doesn't
the
get
majority
that,
of
but.
people that have any kind of family or employee plus truck, they're certified,
Yeah, it's not the classified anybody
No.
taking any of the extra
because
insurance.
they can't afford it.
Right, well, because it's at 100% they have to pay now.
I mean, the majority of that is gonna be your certified,
Yeah,
especially the employee plus children, because it's 100% pay.
yeah.
I mean, look at you can see where the big bucket is, your Blue Cross Blue Shield premium, the SNEC, or that's for the bulk of the people.
Mm-hmm. And that's the highest cost premium.
As far as dependent coverage, because I didn't include the single ones. But that's where the bulk of the people are.
Mhm. So, we were to offer the local, limited, and standard as options. I'd be curious to find out what kind of savings we would have to the district.
We don't pay anything on employee spouse.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We do for certified.
Yeah,
Certified.
You for
certified.
the spouse? I thought it was just the dependents.
Nope.
Yeah, the employee spouse.
No.
Just dependents.
Children, we do not. They did that when all of this started.
Now, hang on, kid.
When all of this started, there was about 5 or 6 people that they found out that, you were here, Mr. T. There's about 5 or 6 different people that they found out, and that came out in a board meeting, and at that moment, that was cut. So,
Just bear with me, guys.
Because we used to pay for the spouse.
It doesn't anymore. I know it doesn't.
Both.
Taught me hell was on mine.
Spouses work for the system, yeah.
that's the only way.
Okay, employee plus spouse, it says for certified, that the BOE pays $1,179.35, and they pay $518.65.
When they came back, but I know Sherry Chapel,
Yeah.
I know she was up here raising Cain about it when they cut it out.
Because there was about 5 or 6
Ever
families
since
that
I've
they
been here,
found
I
out.
promise you, I've got the sheet, it's been like this. I mean, that's on the website. It's been like that ever since I've been here. Now, I don't know about all of the other, but it used to be, I think, probably at a higher percentage.
I thought it was cut completely.
No.
And that's what we were led to believe, that there was just the children.
Yeah.
Yeah, employee and the children is what we understood.
If you go to the website and go on the HR portal, you can see this sheet.
Yeah.
So how many of
Didn't
them,
pay attention to that because I didn't think it was there.
how many of them, how many do we pay like that for the employee and spouse?
Well, you can see
On
up
the
here,
spreadsheet.
it's on the spreadsheet, get to the right side. What,
34,
34,
on there.
well, there are different plans, 34, there's 37, that's 40, 48,
Yeah, there's.
about 51,
30.
52 people.
Mhm.
Yeah, if we go 80/20, talking $200,000.
Yeah.
Annual's $2 million.
You're talking 80/20 for the spouse and dependents versus the 50/50 that she's got on this sheet here.
Say that again.
50/50, you're saying would be close to $1 million.
50/50 is close to 2
2
million.
million for the year. And that's at these current rates, and they will go up in January.
Mhm. So that just gives us an idea, keeping the employee at 100% and having the spouse and dependents at the 50% contributory from the,
Can we send another specific poll out asking our employees feel about 100% versus 50/50 versus 80/20?
well, of course, they'll pick 100%.
I mean,
When you're cutting their pay, they're
this is a Google poll, right?
Google form?
It's not hard.
It's the Survey Monkey, but I mean,
We don't
100% is
necessarily know
what it's
that
at, so
cost.
we want to survey them on the actual
Drop
proposed
it in.
changes, right? So, but again, we've got the two categories of pay and benefits. So they rank pay number one. So if we're gonna keep the benefits higher, that's gonna impact the pay. So if we were to send that survey out, what would you hope to derive from that? 'Cause
Just to understand how employees feel about just insurance.
so the question would need to be phrased in a way of keeping in mind that this impacts the pay scales.
Where do you want to lose money?
It doesn't really
In
impact the pay
insurance
scales
or on-
because we have to meet
Pay.
the state requirements.
We do.
I mean, because if
We
you
do,
cut
but we're-
if you're cutting the benefits, you
One
may as
together.
well be
Yeah.
saying, where would you rather lose money? On the pay or on your insurance?
Well, that's
'Cause they're
what-
still gonna lose money out of their pocket.
Yeah.
If it's insurance that we're cutting, then that's more that they're gonna have to pay for doctor bills for everything else, so.
Right. And that's where that survey, that's why that survey initially went out. What was the priority to them? Do they want more in their pocket or do they want the 100% benefits? Right, so
But
that's
it's
what that
not more in
reasoning
their
for that
pocket,
was
it's
for.
where do you want cut at?
In their pay, and they're coming in their paycheck, so salary, in their pay. So that's what that survey told us, but at some point, there's gonna have to be some adjustment. We're talking about adjusting the pay scales here. So we're coming into a balanced range that's gonna cost us more in a lot of areas. We're talking about being competitive,
We don't have
right?
a choice in the pay scales.
Right,
We
we-
have to bring the pay scales up to 50.
To a certain extent, right?
I mean, we could,
Yeah.
we could just lower the lowest point to 50,000, leave the rest of it the same. but
Right.
that Really doesn't make any
And that's
sense.
actually something that I had talked to Mr. Stepp about, just to see where we would be with the compression factor, and Ms. Bray reworked the scales with the compression factor, and that's where we found out we could go to a balance without it being too crazy.
The balance is
And even more so with what
not good.
you
I
were
just
showing
showed
with
that.
yours, yeah. So, but it's not, there's gotta be a breaking point here somewhere. I mean, I guess, other districts are paying a little more, but the people have had to take the bite on the benefits.
Send it
They've,
over and ask for the money and see what comes back.
Yeah,
we've gotta come with something that we've figured out from this end here. We can't keep raising the pay and getting to the point where we are competitive, but yet we are paying more for benefits than other districts are. So again, we gotta look at that whole
but that's
entire
the whole
package.
point. you're cutting their pay. If you're cutting their benefits, you're cutting their pay.
They're having to contribute to the benefits more.
So that's cutting their
Yes.
pay.
However,
That's cutting their out-of-pocket pay.
their pay does build on itself every year for raises and for retirement, so that is benefiting them.
Every year.
All other districts have had to take the hit at some point because they've gone to 80-20, 70-30, 60-40. So at some point, they had to take the hits in order to make sure that they were able to raise that pay and stay competitive. So it's a balance. I keep saying it's a balance. So I understand where you're coming from. I mean, every year I shouldn't even say that. I didn't even get a raise every year in the private sector. And my insurance went up every single year. I never had 100% insurance. And I think that's, the way it goes in the private sector. But we're seeing in the government, non-private sector, that it's the same way, 80-20, 70-30, 60-40. So I'm telling you, going to the commissioners right now and saying, we need this much money because this is the situation we're in, but we're more competitive in what they're doing as a county and then what other districts are doing, we're not gonna get them to pony up any money.
I think it's sad that our greatest resource in our school district, our teachers, our employees, and the first place we're trying to cut money from is their pockets.
Well, we're trying to correct the trajectory that all that was on. So there's some correction that has to happen here.
But that's our first cut, is to cut money out of their pocket.
No, there was other areas where they've made adjustments before even bringing the budget to us. And then there's areas that we've talked about with projects. But this is the biggest bulk of our expenses. So it's been said from the beginning, if we're going to make any impact on where we are with our budget, this is the area we need to be analyzing. And we've spent a lot of time analyzing it in order to make some adjustments.
And
And I think, honestly, I just don't, nobody wants to take anything away from anybody, but we've got some corrections here that we have to make.
Well, one way that and this is not going to be a very popular opinion, and people are going to hate on me for a while over this, but one thing we don't have to provide is transportation. We do not have to provide transportation to our schools. If you want to cut somewhere, there's one place we can cut. It's a deep and hard cut that no one's going to like. But rather than taking money out of people's pockets, our employees' pockets.
That doesn't leave our students, which are at the student is what we're here doing.
You're exactly right. And that's what I'm trying to get to, is we don't have money to cut like that. You're talking minimal cuts anyway.
Well, go ahead.
Yes.
Please.
Am I supposed to send out a survey?
Don't worry
Back to the
about
survey.
it. Don't worry about it. I've already know what I need to know.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we derive from that, other than if we had some specific.
Put it on the agenda and vote on it.
I was just trying to look at a way that we could take a blended approach with some of this, so it wouldn't be a deep cut. It would be something where we could still provide that 100% benefit and not take that away, but align a little bit more with what everybody else is doing with the dependents and the spouse. And then also, by changing the plans, we're not, we're still offering good insurance plans. We're just not offering the top dollar one that costs so much. True. So those were just some of my suggestions, but if somebody else has a better idea, please.
I'd like to move on to number 9, discuss it, then take a short recess and come back. So let's look at number 9. Discussion of the 142 and 143 budget presentations. Like Ed said earlier, they can't nail that down until we decide salaries and stuff. So anyway, we've got a proposed where it would be, so that we can see and look at what we're talking about on 142 and 143. So let's look at 143.
Where do you want me here at the podium?
Wherever you're most comfortable.
You want the microphone?
Yeah.
Luckily, 143 is only 3 pages, and I don't know if you want me just sort of quickly, because the first page is revenues, the second page is expenditure, and then the third page is the fund balance. So I don't know, do you want me to sort of just go down through the lines sort of briefly and then just take questions?
Just like the highlights.
Yes.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, looking at this, I want to start by, of course, my dilemma is I don't know, because all my employees are classified. So I wasn't real sure, what percentage to give them, and we try to follow the lead. So whatever, give custodians, teachers, assistants, we try to follow the lead with the cafeteria staff. So you'll see in the budget, the last green column is proposed with 2%. And then over on the far right-hand side is, in the blue, is with 10%. Of course, that doesn't affect the revenues on the first page any at all. And just looking through the first 2 sections is local revenue. The 4,300, 4,400, about the first half of the page, that's about $400,000 is all that we get from local now, since students eat at no charge for breakfast and lunch. And that's what we're proposing for next school year as well. You'll see we get lunch payments and breakfast payments from adults, the teachers. We have some a la carte sales, and that has gone down some. I just think families are tightening their budgets. And then also, you got to remember, looking at where we're ending this year as far as what was budgeted and what we're budgeting for next year. We had, 16 inclement weather days? So if there's no school, we have no revenue, because we operate 100% on reimbursement or payments from teachers and kids while in school. So that's the only way we get our money, is from reimbursement and what meals we serve and what we sell. Then looking on down, you'll see there's banquet. That is our meal catering. There is also, looking on down, investment income. That's just bank interest. What we have in the bank, miscellaneous refunds, that's cookie trays, sandwich trays, and we separate that out from the meal catering, because meal catering actually has labor in it, where the other things they do within the school day. And that's all our local funds. Like I said, that's approximately about $400,000. Then if you go on down, the state of Tennessee, that's the only money we actually get from the state. It's a one-time payment. The state figures that amount. It ranges somewhere around $40,000. Then the rest of that, the bottom section, is federal, and that's where our money comes from. Around $8 million. And that is reimbursement from the meals that we actually serve, breakfast, lunch, after-school snack, and our summer meals. And you'll see, too, there's a USDA Foods commodity account, 47112. You'll see that is a wash account. That is the commodity dollar amount associated with the commodity foods we receive. And back several years ago, the auditors wanted to see that in our budget. So the same amounts in revenues and in expenditures, so it just washes out. And then we get a couple little grants that is in there. And you'll see, just for this year, I put down our February and March USDA receivable. That money's finally flowing in. There was a little bit of pause on our federal dollars for a short time. But that money's flowing in. But we were about 2 months late getting in our February money, or I should say maybe a month and a half late. Are there questions on the revenues? Okay. Page 2, expenditures. And looking at this, the first part is all wages. Of course, I'm on the non-certified supervisor scale. And then in my office, we have 2 bookkeepers, both full-time, $260. Then you'll see the cafeteria personnel. And it looks like we're giving them a pay decrease from what was proposed or what was budgeted last year to this year. And it's really not that. Last year, whenever we budgeted, we tried to budget in extra because we were going county-wide CEP, all kids eating free. Not sure exactly how that would look.
we wanted the money there in case we had to add positions at schools.
Okay.
And also, a bunch of that is just the summer work. Ever since COVID, every school nutrition employee who wants to work the summer gets to work the summer. And last year, there's just a lot of families have so many other obligations, their parents, their grandparents, and they work the school schedule because of that. So when it comes to the summer, their kids are home, their grandkids are home, and they really can't work the summer. So we had about 40 employees that worked last summer that served the 300,000 meals over the summer.
That's amazing.
They are amazing.
Yes.
And we're trying to make it easier this year. Last year, I know they killed themselves. They really do, trying to prepare and wrap and distribute. So we are going for the summer more individual wrapped items that comes individual. So that way, it's going to make it easier for them to bag and distribute. And then too, it makes it easier. Some families, they know exactly what that is. So if there's concerns with food allergies, they have the labels on that. So we're going to do that to try to help out some this summer.
They love what they do.
They do.
You do an awesome job, Ms. Tammy.
Do such a great job.
Then you'll see the maintenance personnel. This is for kitchen. They work on kitchen equipment. There's 2.5 positions. The one position's a 120 day. And then in the cafeteria personnel, I did not point out, all those employees are 200 and 210 days. Of course, with the option to work the summer if they want. And then you have your matching lines and then your insurance lines, and we have no increase except for health insurance. And then going on down, you see there's communication, there's copier service, pest control, transportation, that's our commodity delivery. And that has gone down because we do a lot of DOD fresh produce, and they don't charge us delivery fees on that. So that line has went down quite a bit over the years. Then there's in-county travel, garbage pickup and disposal, other contracted services. This is our fire suppression inspections and all our software. We have point-of-sale software, we have back-of-the-house software where we do nutrition analysis on all the menus, and then too, we're joining in on some new HR software. Equipment and machinery parts for the kitchen equipment. And then food supplies, which is the biggest bucket of our budget. And food supplies keep going up and up and up. And it's going up further than what we're getting reimbursed. And I will say this year has been a challenging one. Between some grants not happening because for the last several years, the USDA has not raised our reimbursement rates to match how much food cost has increased. But they've given us some like one-time grants. There was the local foods grant, supply chain assistant grants. That's equated to about $300,000. Well, that's not going to happen this year. We've got the official notice. They don't see that happen again. And then also with the 16 inclement weather days, because essentially we're a restaurant, and we saw close to a $200,000 loss. Yeah, we're getting sort of nervous with that because we were still paying wages. Our employees still got paid for those days, but we had no income. Luckily, the end of March, we were back in the black for the year. But January and February was ugly, and then here we're not getting the supply chain assistant grants and the local food grants. But it's just back, just sort of trying to buckle down and see where we can save for the rest of the school year. So we do end the year in the black. Then just going on, you see office supplies, all employees get an $85 uniform allotment. Then there's the USDA foods, that's that wash account I was talking about, that's the same amount. And it says year-to-date nothing in that line, but it's a one-time journal entry at the end of the year when we close the books. Then other supplies and materials is everything they use in the cafeteria besides food, whether it's janitorial supplies, plates, whatever is in that line. In-service training and out-of-county travel. The other charges is broken down on the third page, and then food service equipment. And I will say,
Stone Memorial High School is our next and our last cafeteria renovation, where we've been replacing all the tables, doing the wall graphics, but they're our most expensive renovation, just because of how that cafeteria is laid out. I was hoping that would happen this year, but with losing the grants, the ugly January, February, we're having to push that back. But anything we can put into fund balance, we're hoping to save. And then that's still top priority, is the SMHS cafeteria renovation. Are there any questions on expenditures? Okay, then just looking on the last page, if you want to see what's in that other charges, because I know sometimes, it breaks it down just with different things, health permits, paint, different things that's in the other charges line. And then looking, which the fund balance, if we go with the 2%, then we're looking at least $150,000 rolling into the fund balance, which hopefully will go to fund the SMHS renovation. But I'm also going with the 10%, that way we could figure, if we knew where we were at 2% and we know where we're at 10%, we know we can make anything in the middle work. Okay. And at 10%, we would end up with a negative fund balance, but we do have some rolling in there. We are a little over our 2 month. And there's a few things, we could possibly, if it came down to it, save. And because that's really close to balance. And I know one person in my office is retiring, and she's at 26 plus years. So the chances of hiring someone back with that experience isn't going to be likely. And in that case, we could save some money in that line. But just a few things like that. But we're unsure who we're going to hire, because she's not made it official, but we're pretty sure of that. So anyways. Are there any questions? If not, I'm just going to put a plug. Tomorrow is Easter dinner at all the schools. Turkey dressing, gravy, sweet potato casserole, all that good stuff. So if you're at a school, $5, you can't get a cheaper dinner.
Thank you.
We need the extra revenue. Even though we don't make a whole lot on that, but yeah.
Every bit helps.
Okay.
Every bit. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you very
You
much.
do a great job.
Thank you, Miss Sandy.
Thank you.
So there's a little more to it than just serving lunch.
Amen.
There's a lot, and I did not know that whenever I got called for the interview. I would go eat lunch, surprise, with my oldest daughter, which was little bitty, and I really thought they just served food. I had no idea.
You do a great
Always
job.
more to it, isn't there?
Amen.
Thank you, Miss
Thank
Hamby.
you.
All right, y'all have any other questions? We're going to take a short break. I want you to look at the special call meeting and see if there's items that we can or can't vote on. We'll come back and discuss it. So we'll stand back.